All right. The red light is on and the time is ticking down. Welcome back to the GFB Clubhouse, another conversation with the GFB here live in effect. My name is Bradley Trammell. My brothers are here with me, Mr. Rod Brinson, John Sober, and Gregory Rutledge. And on a week to week basis, every Tuesday, we collect ourselves and come together, talk about the previous week's victories, some of the struggles, but in everything we express, we make sure we express gratitude. Today, we have a continuation of a conversation that we had last Tuesday. Our brother Greg is back joining us after surviving a horrible tornado threat and losing power, but we're grateful that he's here. And we're going to start off with him. How you feeling today, bruh? Welcome back.
Man, I'm just grateful to be alive. There's a lot of people that didn't make it through that storm.
I
And,
bet, man.
we over here complaining about no power for 6 hours, and these people don't have a roof, you know, or they don't have their life, or they lost a loved one, or, their entire life was uprooted. And so I'll deal with no power for 6 hours just to still be here.
Mm,
Yeah. Wow.
very intense, man. Something to be grateful for right off the bat. And if you do not happen to live in an area where that is frequent, I know you're grateful for that. But there are other areas of the country that experience other natural catastrophes pretty regularly. Got cousins who live in California and they were dealing with the fires. Was it
Mm,
last year and so forth? When they were like really
mm,
going crazy and couldn't nobody put a cap on them. There's a
mm.
lot of things when I thought about that. I was like, cannot imagine being in an area where that is happening. It literally looks like an inferno at night. But yeah, grateful for
Mm.
that. But my other brothers, Rod, John, how y'all doing this evening?
Sean, I'll let
Right.
you go first.
Yeah, no, blessed and highly favored. Happy to be here with you guys. Greg, we missed you last week. We paused the conversation intentionally because we needed your point of view and your recap of what's to come. So in this conversation, but yeah, man, super grateful that I had a conversation with my son. We wanted to get him on the show. Um, he very eloquently declined to be here. One, because he had to work, and two, he says, "Well, that's not really my thing." I'm like, you know what? I felt like a little bit of sadness because I wanted him to play a part. However,
Mm,
super proud of him understanding his voice and the ability to use it.
mm.
I
Mm,
Yeah.
think a lot of us experience we have the voice, but we don't have that to kind of
Mm,
say what we need to say when we need to say it. So super
mm.
proud of him. And if you're listening to me, super proud of you, kid. Keep it up. Rod,
Well,
what's up with you?
man, I am ecstatic. First of all, I feel you on that. I didn't even mention it to my son. I will eventually. He just moved back home from his freshman year of college, ended that first
Let's
year.
go.
So yeah, excited about, seeing him kind of usher himself into manhood. Um, it's bumps and hills to climb when it comes to that. And I take the challenge greatly. I'm grateful for it, because it's definitely a challenge, right? It's moments of up and down and left and right and all of that, but we here. And to Greg's point, I think it's easy to overlook the gift of today
Mm.
because you just expect it, but
Mm.
nobody's promised tomorrow, right? And there are some people that didn't make it, and so yeah, I'm grateful to be here, excited about everything going on in my life, whether it's something that was planned out and promised, or positioned to challenge me and grow me. I'm excited for it.
Mm. Yeah, speaking of the kids, y'all are talking about your son. Our daughter came by this weekend and just made a decision that she was going to move out and got all her stuff and left like in a matter of an hour.
No
And
way.
it took my wife by surprise. She was just like, she didn't have time to process it. She cried for an hour and a half afterwards, and just, it happened so fast. And, usually not usually, sometimes when a kid is moving out, it's on bad terms, and like they're grabbing their stuff and they're leaving because they're tired of, living with their parents. They want to be their own person. But she was just like, I got a taste of it. I'm getting my stuff together. I made the decision. I'm moving, and just got her stuff, most of it, and just left. I was so proud of her, but also just kind of like, it took us like whoa, that we didn't see that one coming. And it's the baby, the youngest of the 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you were sitting there like, what just happened?
Yeah, like just it was like a tornado came through the house, you know? And we're just sitting there afterwards trying to process it. Like, are we empty nesters now? Because like our son hasn't really been here for like the last 8 months. She hasn't really been here for like the last 3-4 months. The other 3 don't live with us. The oldest is getting married the day after our thing in DC. So it's just weird to still feel like I'm 16 most times, 18 on a good day, and have all kids that are older than that out there doing their own thing.
That's awesome.
It's beautiful, man. I mean, the way our conversations really go, they flow. And right now, like the aspect of the reflection of youth, it seems to be bubbling forth. Right? Honestly, when you were describing, your son coming back from college after freshman year, you caught me a freshman year. I could not stop replaying things that occurred during my freshman year in undergrad. And a lot of stuff came back. I'm talking about girls I dated, my teammates on the basketball squad, what courses I was taking, the fact that I made probably one of the biggest mistakes in undergrad, and I ended up dropping a course that was mandatory for me to graduate in physics because I understand it and I thought it was stupid. And I didn't go to no advisor when I did it. I just went straight and I dropped it. I was like, I'm saving my people money. I got to pay for this course. Needless to say, that on the back end of that, I had to go to summer school to take the course down there in Alabama, but ended up in a class where the teacher made physics simple. He was miraculous. He was like a Jedi with it. He just made all the little functions or whatever that you have to learn to apply to certain scenarios when you're trying to find out how fast the bullet was flying and how hard it's going to hit the wall and all that. He had a process where he helped us memorize the correct methods to figure that stuff out. And I like all that stuff came back to memory just by the fact that you mentioned freshman year. And then the contributing thought to that, or the actually controversial thought to that, was the fact when we was in college, wasn't no social media. Nope. Wasn't no cell phones, and the Razor wasn't even out yet. Because when I had the Razor flip phone from Nokia, I was out of college. So I'm like, how in the world do we talk to people? We sat down and we talked to people.
Yeah.
There was a girl you liked.
Yeah. Look,
I know I'm stirring the pot right now.
Now you're taking me back because that's how I got into marketing. I literally didn't know how to communicate with girls that I were interested in that weren't where I was, and so we would be on chats like the Yahoo chat, the AOL chat, that type of thing. But they were in different cities, different states, and I don't know if you know, but you didn't have profile pictures back then. It was just your name, whatever your little nickname was, right? And so the only way we would get to see people is to mail a physical picture, like in mail, like across the United States type thing, right? And then we were like, me and my guy was like, we gotta find a better way, man. What can we do? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out how to build a website. Then I can just post my picture there and share that with people. This is before Facebook, before MySpace. All you had was Black Planet.
Black Planet. I was waiting on it. Black Planet was the most gangster website ever. You could design your background. You could design how what it looks like when you scroll to the page. Like all the stuff we do now, you could do that with Black Planet. You could make your page like as wild as you wanted to make it. I remember
it was MySpace before MySpace.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
literally.
Right,
but no, even before Black Planet, it was GeoCities, and with GeoCities, you had to have some kind of understanding of code. And I didn't understand code, but I learned it, and I was able to do it. And before you know it, man, I just got good at it. People started asking me to do it for them. Fast forward 10 years later, I got a whole marketing agency. It's how it works sometimes.
Let's go.
Yeah. You brought me back to last week. We're talking about youth and like, what did we do before phones? And I was at this conference called Big Design. It's for UX designers, people in product, people that are designing the future of the world we live in. And it was a lot about AI. And people show up to this thing, and I was just observing because I didn't have my normal extrovert energy. I was just observing for once. And this was my first time being at this conference as a guest instead of a volunteer to serve. And so it was a different experience altogether. But what I observed was that everyone was like so nervous, right? Like they're thinking about everything from the context of business and feeling that imposter syndrome because they don't feel like they've done enough, or they don't feel like they have enough, or they don't feel like their degree is really what they're doing. And so there's just this friction. They're bumping heads the whole time. And I was like, let me try something. I'm going to take them to lunch and I'm going to make them talk about their hobbies, their quirks, their weird interests, and see what happens. Because I notice this happens every time I do it. But you notice people that weren't sitting next to each other kind of start to gravitate towards each other because they had a similar interest in anime and crafts and art and drawing, and how people were lighting up when they were talking about what they used to do before they got into their career and they had kids. And then the whole table lit up and everyone connected in a different way. And I was like, that right there. When I leave a meetup or I leave some kind of professional engagement, I don't remember people's titles, what they accomplished in their job, what their role was called. I don't remember any of that, but I do remember the interesting things about them. The person that played the drums, the Brazilian lady that played an instrument I'd never heard of, right? I remember those things. I remember the person that lit up when they were talking about their favorite cartoon. And those are the things that stick in our minds when it comes time to, there's a role that was posted and I need to fill that role. Am I going to go by the resume that has all the really cool things on it that everyone else has too? Or am I going to go with the person that lit up inside that we had something in common? And so I tried that again. We had a little mix up the second day, or mixer meetup at the end of the second day for our nonprofit. And I made people do that there. And it was a completely different vibe, but it was all based on connecting as humans, not connecting as titles and resumes and accomplishments. And it's so simple. It hurts, but like,
it's lost.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's lost. Have you guys with children, have you seen or witnessed either with them or with their friends the inability to freely communicate and express their thought as you would because you think it may be because of the usage of technology so much so?
Absolutely.
'Cause I mean, that was one of the concerns when social media first came out. It's like we're using the social media so we can connect online, but it's regrettably causing us to be non-social in the real world because online disappears when you plug. And if that's if that's the only place you know how to communicate, then what happens when the power goes out or when you do unplug? There's certain communicative skills that we all possess as human beings. I mean, I'm just going on a little bit about this topic, which seems to be growing in its importance. I have a 3-year-old nephew, and right now he's in daycare with a couple of kids his age, but they all are wizards when it comes to a phone or with a tablet, and their playtime or the way they communicate with one another is altered by that because some kids don't want to be around when it's time to socialize and have recess or recreation. They want to jump on the phone, they want to jump on the tablet, whereas we didn't have that option.
Yeah.
It's like I want to go hunt frogs with John or go throw sticks and rocks with Rod in the lake. You know what I'm saying? I want to do that type of stuff. But if kids got this technological option with all these colors and these graphics and these characters and stuff like that, how is real life supposed to compete with that?
Well, and you got to think, just like Rod said, he was building sites for others because he learned code and he didn't know how to communicate. And so he built that whole thing up. That's exactly how Facebook started. It was a dating site because Mr. Zuckerberg did not know how to talk to females. So he created a space to do it. Now look at what happened. Introvert that can't speak to people creates a platform so that he can speak to people that inadvertently, if that's the way you it ended up causing a bunch of introverted, socially awkward people, right? Because now we're talking through this thing that is supposed to connect us that actually disconnected us more than ever. And I saw this shift when I was in 12-step programs. We went from anonymity, only knowing the person's first name and last initial. not being able to take pictures of people in meetings, not being able to tag or post them anywhere online because, you know, you maybe have a lawyer or doctor or someone with this prestigious career that you don't want to know as a recovering alcoholic or addict, to everyone's tagging and posting on Facebook and, you know, everyone's full name. And now you can put this whole image of who you want to be online, and people started losing their lives because online it looks like they're doing fine. Behind the scenes, they're using drugs again, or they're slipping backwards. And how much more so now with AI, that I can create whatever I want and make it look real, and no one would question it.
Greg, I want to jump in right there though, because you said something about communication. Like I had no issue communicating. That was not why I created the sites. It was the inability to show myself physically, like a photo. But communicating, whether in person, on the phone, in text, smoke signal, pigeon, I had no problem communicating, right? But to your point, and to answer your question, Brad, and I want to hear what John has to say as well. I think that it's a combination of things. It can't just be solely social media. It's the phone itself, which is why we start talking about Black Mirror. All right, right? Because having a cell phone now means that you can catch me anywhere on the go. There's no longer just you got to call my house to get me, and you might not reach me. It's also now I'm connected to the world everywhere I go. So we used to sit down and play video games, and that was our disconnect from the world. But we couldn't play video games everywhere we went. It had to be in the living room on that big TV that had the small TV on top of it because the bottom one wasn't working, right? And your parents couldn't watch that show while you were playing the game, so you can only play for so long, right? But eventually we get into this space where we're connected to this device 24/7. And so that takes away in general, not just social media. And then the third piece I'll add that I think the most underexposed issue is, as parents, as adults, we're so busy with our lives, we don't spend time with the kids. So we give them the tablet to go sit over there in the corner and do whatever else. And before you know it, they don't know how to communicate because we're not communicating to them. So it's less about them being social with their friends, and it's more about them not being social with us. Last thing I'll say on that, during COVID, I really discovered the power of this and how it mattered. And I didn't realize we were doing it. I was just, doing whatever we would normally do. We pick them up from school, conversations in the car, road trip. Nobody has their phone. We talking, playing games, laughing. COVID exposed that was our natural state of being. And so while we stuck in the house with each other all day, it wasn't like, oh my God, it was conversation. It was board games. It was watching movies. It was, and so the bottom line is, I think that we have to get back to that piece. In the midst of our busyness, we got to spend time with the people in our houses and having conversations instead of texting or calling from upstairs.
So it's interesting, as you guys can tell, I'm absorbing as much as possible because all roads lead to gratitude in the context of this conversation. So there's a few points that each one of you have already mentioned that I just want to reiterate in this conversation. The first one, originally you, Rod, prior to us going live, mentioned organic. And, Greg, you kind of said it again. You kind of whispered it within, what you were saying. It's important for us to understand that if we can have conversations, let's call it conversations in person, it kind of challenges you differently. Right now, regardless of not so much the phone, but regardless of the device, there's a barrier to entry because we're viewing someone else's life based on what we talked about last week, but not the interpretation that they're sending, but the interpretation they believe that you're going to have over them is how they show up, right? And we talked about that last week. So there's an unfortunate, disingenuous environment And I only say that because, again, it's not what I perceive, it's what you're showing me, but what you're showing me is based off what you think I'm going to like, right? So there are layers to it, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting, okay? So if we peel back the layers, we go back again to something I mentioned last week, and we all kind of felt it. And Greg, you'll appreciate this. So when I had a conversation with my son, one of the things he mentioned was he didn't like people knowing his first name, right? And that led us to the conversation of intimacy, right? Now, we want to talk about intimacy, or not we, but most people, let's say the general population, wants to talk about intimacy in a more sexual context, but that's not it, right? Intimacy is this exactly what's happening right now with us four here, right? The level of conversation, the level of vulnerability, the transparency, the honesty, all of the things that create intimacy is kind of what we have going on right now. So to bring the point, to land the plane, with my son telling me that, what I've noticed, to answer your question, Brad, is that their generation, right, they're seeing it as they're no longer safe because they're exposed, so they cannot be intimate. They could only be intimate after a certain point. So after a certain amount of interaction with a person, then you go from transaction to relationship, to relational. Right. But it takes them more time. For us, it didn't take that long. Why? Because we were put into the mix. There was nothing in the way. There was no devices in the way. We had no choice. Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I find it completely intriguing when we immerse ourselves in the conversation of technology, right? And you kind of sprinkle a little bit of politics and a little bit of faith and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We went from being the citizens to being the consumers, being consumed by all things around us.
Wow.
There's a lot of layers here. A lot of layers.
And if you just think about that, you said there was layers between, like, there's barriers, there's different levels of, before you can get intimate. And if you just think about the word intimacy like this, into me, see what happens when all these layers are up. It takes some breaking down of the walls before you can see into me, or before I'll allow you to really see into me, because there's the identity that I think you want to see. There's the one I think I am. There's the one I want you to think I am. And there's the one that everyone told me I was, that I wasn't. Right. So there's so many different layers of this show, this performance of who we think we need to show up as, or what voice we're battling against. Right. And none of it is really us until you get in person, and there's no room for me to read a script or to hide behind a screen or to take time to think behind what I'm going to say next and polish it. You have to see into me at that point. That's crazy.
Man, that's so interesting.
That's why Nosedive is so interesting. Just segueing back. Go ahead, Ron.
Ooh, okay. Before we go to that, I just want to firstly say that these layers got me thinking about some other kind of intimacy. Yeah, I'm like, my wife has layers. I don't know how many layers I got to get through. I digress. So, the reality is, Greg, you said something like, and I'm paraphrasing, we don't show up as our real selves, and I'm just grateful to say that that's a hill I've climbed and overcome. Like, I feel very confident that the person you guys hearing and seeing on a regular basis, 100%, is who I am when no cameras are on. It's who I am in a room full of CEOs, and it's who I am around my cousins that grew up, that really know me. Like, I've become the full version of myself and revealed all the layers, so I have nothing else to hide, type thing. you know, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
My vulnerability can no longer hurt me. It can only help me, you know. So, you know, even my nickname as a child, like I used to shy away from that and telling people that because it was embarrassing for me. But now I use it as a part of my speeches when I'm, you know, doing keynotes and stuff like that. So it's just a different level once you get to seeing what into yourself, you know, so that other people can experience true intimacy with you. So yeah.
I think it's a ownership mindset. When you enter into that, you own your identity, you own who you are, no matter what. You know, as a youth, I found myself even like as early as 16 or 17, man. I always rolled with guys that were older than me. And I would always be like brought along and I wouldn't say much because, you know, the older dudes is talking. I would just listen and learn and see how they handle life matters, whether it was with women, with cars, with money, whatever it was. I would observe and I would be in that position a lot. And one thing I noticed, especially guys are older, they just didn't care about their responses, about people, how people looked at them, the judgments, what people said. They just didn't care. They were unapologetically themselves, and they had that type of nonchalantness out of what I perceive to be a weariness of trying to be something else. Like when they talked about it, it's like, man, they just going to take me how I am. I'm with, you know, that whole body language, the way the voice dropped, and the way their attitude was when they explained it, led me to believe they got tired of being something else to a point, and now they just gonna be this way no matter what. And you either gonna like it or you ain't. And I always
They
wondered
happen to
when I
have
was
on fur coats and like walking around with women and canes and stuff.
nah, I wasn't no pimps, bro. That's
It
definitely
sounded like you were describing a pimp for a second.
that ain't up here where I'm at, man. That's
Exactly
definitely
what I
like
was visualizing.
Yeah, Jack. That's how it is.
hey, don't do that. You sound like a pimp named Slickback for Boondocks, bro. Sound just like hey, but I digress.
That's
But I
hilarious.
mean, I remember when I hit that when I got that attitude. I think it was early 40. You know what I'm saying? I think it was the advent of turning 40. I was like, this is that age. Because everybody I knew who had this type of attitude, they were above 40. So I was like, this is probably when it's gonna hit. I'm gonna just be unapologetically me. And even though I said that and made that decision, I still had to ease into it because there were
Yeah.
people who knew me as something else at work. People call it code switching, the way you communicate, the
Mm.
way you are, you ain't really yourself. And there were other circles I was in where I did the same thing, but slowly but surely, I just was myself more so than not. And to see people's reactions and find out if they were accepted or not was intriguing and interesting within itself because you saw who was really for you and who wasn't.
Mm.
You saw who was just faking just like you were. Because when that stuff is shed, everybody who loves that got to be shed with it.
Yeah.
Which I guess leads us into our conversation about this rating system that was on the Black Mirror episode called Nosedive, to where the premise was there was this girl and she was doing everything possible to increase her social rating. And everybody around her had social rating. But the thing is, everybody was influenced by other people that they interacted with. So if you gave somebody like a hello or a good morning, or you seemed cheerful, or you were polite to somebody, they could reward that by swiping up or giving you 5 stars and increasing your rating. Subsequently, if you did something to piss somebody off, ran them off in traffic, cursed at them, or did something rude, they could initially swipe down and cause your rating to decrease. And don't let it happen with somebody who's like way higher than you. They have bigger impact. And the way this episode went was, of course, I'll just describe it as quickly as I possibly can. But there was a girl, and she was, dealing with this, trying to get her rating up. She had a best friend from childhood whose rating was where she wanted hers to be. And this girl had called her and invited her to her wedding, not knowing that this was all a ploy to maintain and increase her rating even higher. The girl who had a lower rating, the main character, decided to go because she thought it would be an excellent opportunity to increase her rating. But then she ran into a series of unfortunate events just trying to get to the wedding, and her rating ended up plummeting. And from there, things just got from crazy to worse. I don't want to spoil it. Maybe you guys came and we're talking a little bit about the details, but what you really saw unfold in the episode was how much sway and how much control to a satirical level people had over how you were either approved or rejected in the world. And it was a play on the ploy that we actually do that in real life, just subconsciously. We look at our posts to see how many likes we have, how many uh, recycles or what is reposts have, and so forth, to see if I got comments and if I made a comment, if people like my comment. Subconsciously, we're looking at that. We have our own rating that's either going up or going down in our own minds. But in this episode, it was made visible, and it was a powerful episode for what it displayed. And in the end, you saw what happened, man. I don't want to give
Yeah.
it away, but the girl finally had a release from trying to be everything she was not at the end of the episode. But it was serious, man. So where do we pull gratitude out of that? Because if we ain't talking about nothing else,
Mm.
we talking about that. To be grateful is within itself a remedy against having a type of mindset to where you feel your rating or your worth is determined by other people. Because the more things
Yeah.
that you focus on that you're grateful for, you'll realize they're out of your control and out of other people's control. Like waking up in the morning. Whew, better be grateful. Having your power
Mm.
on. You don't control that. Storm can come through, knock it right out. We had a brother who was facing that last week. Better be grateful. Having siblings or parents or children who are still alive, who have experiences like coming home from college or leaving out of the blue, just moving out of the house, or even
Mm.
rejecting coming on a podcast because it wasn't really their thing. Grateful
Mm.
that you
Mm.
have people in your life to experience this with and enrich your own gratitude. What do you guys think?
I think, man, first of all, the episode was great. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. But to your point, Brad, I think a lot of us get caught up in what other people think, and it ends up forming what we think. And it's just not, it's a vicious cycle to be in. And performance, like I literally read an article today that talked about what did you say it was? I forgot the term where you like go into a workplace and you have to be somebody else. What is it called?
Code
Switching.
switching?
Code switching. Oh my God. I didn't realize how traumatized I was from having to do that all these years until I was 2 years removed from it. And I just realized, like, I don't have to be anybody but me, like fully. You know what I'm saying? And it's an experience I think everybody should have at some point. But to get back to the episode, the bottom line is I was like the brother in the show. Like that's how I am walking around 24 hours a day. So when I see somebody who's acting out of character, code switching, I'm like, you okay? You good? Blink twice if you're in the underworld with the people from Get Out,
Like this.
like what is happening right now? I will never understand people just becoming yes men or people just doing something for the fear, right? Fear is a big part of it. It's like I fear
Mhm. Real
not
fear.
being liked or loved. The whole
Yeah.
human experience is to be loved. And we do things in order to achieve that. Men and women, black, white, old, young, doesn't matter. But the true essence of love is making yourself open to hurt. You can't truly experience love unless you're possible to get hurt. The vulnerability side of love is the only way to truly experience it. So I, I just want to caution anybody out there who is looking at social media and things of that nature and considering their every move based off of what they think somebody else is going to say. Find a way to be yourself and be comfortable with that. Now, yeah, I mean, for sure, you want to mold who you are. You want to reshape who you are so that you present yourself in the way you want to be seen, but not to the point where your morals and your values and who you are deep in your soul gets eradicated because of a like or a share or a celebrity or a verified user or all these other things I could say. Last thing I'll say on this, please, for God's sake, stop looking at the people on the stage who have all the followers and the millions of dollars as the savior to your problems, because they're not. Matter of fact, the person sitting next to you more than likely has more of an opportunity to help you get where you're trying to go than the person on the stage.
Facts.
That's good. So some of the things that I strongly believe it's important to state is what we're missing. Okay. So understand that the first words you learn as a child is no. Okay. So understand that there's a limitation to the amount of control you have as you're being raised. Okay. Because as you're being raised, you're being programmed by all of these social constraints that your parents or your guardians or whomever is raising you have, that are being pressed upon you. So as you get older, it takes a time before you actually kind of wake up one day and say, what is this? Right.
Yeah.
And usually that's that midlife portion, right? Well, I got less ahead of me than what I do behind me, and so on and so forth. The other thing is, it's not wrong to be adaptable. So we can't mix the two, right? You can't expect that you're gonna go out on a block and talk to your boys with a certain language, a certain lingo, whatever it is, and then go back to the boardroom and have the same level of conversation using the same language. Okay, it doesn't work that way,
Yeah.
right?
For sure.
Where authenticity messes up, though, right? Is when they're trying to be something that they're not, based on presentation. Okay, but it's not being disingenuous because the language is different. It's the character and the demeanor that's different. That's where it becomes disingenuous. And I know because, for example, I grew up in the projects in New York. Okay. I know what it is to live in the pissy elevators and, you know, the bums on the street and people selling crack on the corner and the whole 9 yards. And me going from that to sitting, negotiating $1 million contracts, I understand that there's a huge dichotomy. There's a huge contrast between the two, but I was still the same person. Now, I couldn't stand there and be like, yeah, what's up? I'm Life. What's going on? Yeah, what's popping? But I can't. What is that? No, right? No. But that doesn't mean that you're fake. It just means that you understand what your environment requires of you. And now what the social aspect of that environment, how those two link together. And it's not easy.
For sure.
A good person that's conversated on this, and I want to hear what you have to say, Rod. If you ever watch 50 Cent's interviews, he talks about it, right? It's different when you have, you know, the in your back because you know what's coming versus the pen sitting across from someone in the boardroom. It's different, you know. So, but anyway.
No, I respect that, and I'm with it 1,000%. My philosophy is just simply learn how to be the best version of you, and once you do that, right, to your point, you can't go from the block to the boardroom and have the same language and expect to be accepted, etc. But you learn along the way how to have the language in the boardroom. You shouldn't forget that when you go back to the block, nor should you forget where you came from when you go back to the boardroom. And this is why you have the Eric Thomases and the Gary V's and some of the other people I can name of the world who are able to be themselves in that room with a hat backwards and a t-shirt on without code switching, right? They have learned how to develop themselves in a way where they can
Yeah.
be who they are no matter where they are, right? And so I think, to your point, it's not disingenuous if you switch, right? If you go back to your neighborhood or your family and you just chill and relax in your conversation, for sure. But I think it would be to your advantage, anybody listening, to develop yourself in such a way where you don't have to switch. There is no on off. There is no I'm this way over here and I'm that way over here. And for me, my experience, I can only speak for me, is so freeing. It's literal liberation to just be. And I want everybody to experience that. So that's the only reason I push that button. I'm like, yo, I don't care who you are. I'm going to talk to you. I talk to my pastor like I talk to my daughter. You know, like I'm not going to switch just because he has a higher level of esteem. So anyway, I wanted to put that out there. Like, I agree with you 1,000%. I don't think it's disingenuous. I just think there's a freedom associated with being whoever you are, no matter where you are.
There's one small caveat to that is understanding. Okay. And I don't want us to lose track, but I think it's important and relevant for us to make sure that everyone or anyone who's listening, they're fully aware of it, right? The caveat here is what level of understanding exists in that environment. And what I mean by that is I've had situations where I've gone back to New York and I see, one or two homeboys that are left on the block, right? And I go and I'll start, just chopping it up, like we say, and everything is cool. And I'll happen to use a big word. And they look at me like deer in headlamps, right? They won't understand it. So what I'm saying is, yes, be yourself, absolutely, but also understand reading the room, because what you end up doing is you end up outcasting yourself, because now the room you're in doesn't understand the language, and because you're unable to adapt or not switch, but just pivot a little bit, right? Or adapt the conversation to that environment, you lose. You end up not being able to communicate with your old homeboy because you're still stuck on whatever other level that you came from. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's okay to do that, With regards to the series, one of the things that I felt were kind of like the best scenes, if you would, and I won't give obviously the whole story away because I encourage you guys to go and watch it. But there's two particular scenes. One was the young lady who's the protagonist hitches a ride with a truck driver, and I felt that contrast between the two was great. It was very informative, right? There's another part in it where she goes to purchase a house, but obviously she doesn't have the rating for it. And there's a moment in that scene where they show her what her life could be like with a partner in that home. And her reaction to that really was like, I really felt that was her. Because she saw the possibility of something she didn't have, right? And it says a lot about us socially, because a lot of us are preyed upon by the voids that exist in our lives, and people use that to say, hey, by the way, get this because of it. And they kind of like play this thing. And I was like, man, that was tough. That was tough.
And the craziest part about this episode is it was aired in September of 2016. It's 10 years ago. And this is what we're living in right now, right? The credit system, the likability, the likes, shares, comments, engagement on your post, whether you get monetized or not. Where and who you can hang out with based on what you look like online. I remember a time where people actually did background checks on you with a formal background check. And now all they have to do is go and look on your social media. Are you who you present yourself to be? How many people that have like their specific LinkedIn or their specific Facebook for a specific thing. And then they have their ratchet Facebook, right? The one where they actually show up as the person they are, or they've locked their profile so you can't see it unless they accept you as a follower, right?
Oh, come on. Come on. That's a regular thing. Come on.
Yeah. And guess what? Companies are making decisions off of that too. They're hiring and firing based off of your personal profiles online, which is why I care so greatly about being yourself. And what it forces you to do is shape up in a way where you're proud of whoever that is. And I'm not going to keep going back to the other conversation, but I have to say this, John. You gave an example of using a big word around your homeboy and him not understanding you, and that created some distance. I think that's okay. For two reasons. One, you might teach this person a new word, right? They come up to your level. But if you dumb it down and water it down, then they'll never have that opportunity to grow. And then the second thing is, if it creates distance, then maybe there's some distance that's needed. Maybe you don't need to be on the block with the old guy. Maybe you need to continue, so I'm with you 1,000%. I just, to Greg's point, people are looking everywhere to see who you are. That's the main thing. Who are you? Trust is dead right now. Nobody trusts people online. Nobody trusts people in person. Nobody trusts people in relationships, on the job. And so they're looking for validation. Are you really who you say who you are? Yeah, I ain't doing it for no ratings. I'm telling you now, I ain't doing it. Brad might do it, but I ain't doing it.
Nah, I do agree with you. Who you present yourself to be online. I know. How you present yourself to be online can lead to wonderful opportunities that actually fall in line with who you are if you enjoy being you. For instance, the position that I recently just started actually yesterday, when I got suggested for the position, it was because the person who owns the company and was developing the project, he went to my page and he saw what I was doing as far as communication was concerned, whether it was podcasting or just having conversations, just expressing myself. And one of the various ways in which I tried to promote better communication and more so courage in trying to improve said communication with people. That's what he wanted when he picked up the job. So I say that to say we spend a lot of time subconsciously and sometimes consciously putting on a mask and putting on what we think somebody else will like. And possibly that could lead to opportunities that we don't really want, no matter what they are. Like Rod said, people prey on us. It's like, use this or buy this based on the fact that we see that you do and like that. But when you yourself, any offers, any opportunities that come should fall in line with what you present yourself to be. I know that can sometimes be a limiter because people have, even myself, have had problems like, well, what direction should I take? What is it that I should do? And when I had those moments in life where I had those questions in my mind, I made everything simple by saying, I'm gonna just do what comes easy to me, what I'm naturally good at doing. Because if I identify that and I know what it is and I put that out there, then that should lead to, the direction I should go in. And look at that, it worked. So, the same thing with the episode, this girl, I can't remember what act it was that started her spiral. I think she was leaving her house to rush to the airport. And she bumped into, when she left her house, she ran into somebody who was walking or something like that, walking their dog. They had a high rating, and she bumped into them because she was in a rush. They got upset. They looked at her and they did the down swipe, and her thing plummeted. Then next thing you know, it plummeted just enough to when she got in the cab, she had a bad interaction with the cab driver. He didn't like her, swiped, waited him down. Then she got in line to get her ticket to get on the flight, and the flight was like sold out or something like that, and she couldn't upgrade and change it. Yeah, it was canceled. It was canceled. She couldn't switch anything because her rating was too low, and that just sent her off trail.
You know what's crazy though on that point, Brad? It was a crucial, critical moment in her journey right there at that airport, because she had the opportunity. I think she was like at 4.25 or something, and she had to be like a 4.3 to get on a plane. And I was sitting there thinking, like, all you gotta do is just go get somebody to give you some quick stars right quick. But she was so focused on things spiraling that she couldn't see the forest for the trees. And
Yeah.
it went even further down. You know what I mean? So yeah,
You
that
know what?
you're right, man. She started spiraling, it started falling, and it just tumbled after that airport line.
So, Rod, the question would be then, if she would have been in the mindset to get the more, would
Mhm.
she still, will she just be continuing in that whirlwind or in that spiral of the rating system?
Well, she was already there. She just wasn't able to succumb those downfalls in that moment, right? Her mindset was still in the, oh, I need to go be with my best friend and get these ratings, right? She was already there. But to your point, I think, and just looking at this from a different lens, right? Let's just imagine she was being herself and being a normal person. If
Mhm,
she was humble enough to realize the detrimental level she was on where she could fall
mhm,
off completely, then she would have
mhm,
just humbled herself and said, hey, here's where I am. This is what I'm trying to do. Do you mind helping me out? I'm trying to get on this plane, whatever it might be.
mhm.
Boom, things switch up. She's able to get where she's going. So I feel you, but she was already there mentally on that path of trying to do things for the ratings.
So, do you believe that maybe this all started with her accepting to go, even though her brother said, "Hey, that was never your best friend. What is you
Mm,
doing?"
Yeah.
Mm,
mm.
mm.
What do you guys think about that,
You
Greg?
know what?
That,
And so the light bulb just went off as we're sitting here thinking or talking, and I'm like, man, what if she just was grateful for a rating she already had? Would that spiral have started?
mm,
Right? Because she's chasing something she thinks she needs or wants in order to be where she thinks she needs to be. But what would happen if she was already grateful and approached every interaction she went through? If she had gratitude going into it, would it have spiraled? Right?
mm. It's a very interesting point. I didn't think about gratitude in this context, but I don't think it would have spiraled. I think she would have been just fine. It actually probably would have been up because she's giving off this spirit of positivity and happiness everywhere she goes.
Probably would have been higher. Yeah. Honestly, that's interesting.
Because gratitude has the power to change everything without anything ever having to change. It's just a shift of perspective. So if my perspective is what I lack and what I'm missing, then when that starts to appear, then that's what was a self-fulfilling prophecy? I'm
Mhm.
spiraling. Oh no, now I'm only seeing more opportunities that could make me
Mm,
spiral. And so what if that was the reason she spiraled, was because she was focused on spiraling and trying to get higher, and she's chasing something. And I don't know if y'all have ever dated in your lives, but when you chase someone, they run. And when you're grateful, right? Everything changes because I already have enough. And so I'm happy where I'm at. And
mm,
so there's more opportunities for me to look for things to make me happy, or to see, even in a bad situation, where the joy is.
mm. When you chase someone, they run. Look at Greg out here dropping gems.
When you leave them
That's so
alone, they
true.
want to chase you. It's like, why didn't you show me the attention? Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
so backwards how that works, man. I
It's
got
so
a story
bad.
I'm gonna tell on a later episode about finding my wife and how we got together on that same tip. It's hilarious. I'm sure she
Same.
won't mind.
That'll be the next episode, because that's a whole episode in itself.
Oh, how we obtain wives and girlfriends, huh? That's what we talking about. The ways, the steps that we took. I mean,
Mm,
shoot, that we can find gratitude in it. I know that. It's not decided yet, but I know
true.
we can find gratitude in it. But just to bring summary to this episode, what's one piece of information you give to those who are not so satisfied with their rating right
Mm,
now, and
mm,
they might still be chasing a higher rating to the detriment of their own personality, to the detriment of their health, like this girl was in Nosedive. If
mm,
anything, as we just mentioned, the contrast of how it works is when you're grateful or when you find something to be grateful for, it can have the positive effect that could improve or increase your social quote unquote rating without you even having to chase it, because gratitude is contagious, honestly, just like any strong human emotion, especially if it's authentic. If I tell somebody a story or something meaningful, why I'm gratitude, or why I have gratitude, should I say, then they'll, in their mind, while they're hearing me explain why I have it, they'll begin to develop to why they should have it too, because nobody wants to be left out of that type of conversation, unless the person you're talking to is just, well, nothing would, nothing works, nothing working out. If it's that type of person, you're gonna find distance between you and them in no time, especially if you maintain gratitude and they're not. And that's additionally something to be grateful for. Losing people in your life who continue to do that.
Yeah.
So I would say, man, just keep it in the forefront of your mind, things you're happy about, things that you're grateful for, and watch how that subconscious rating increases.
Hmm.
What say you guys?
When you're trying to be anyone else but yourself, nobody's there, because the person you're trying to impersonate or the person you're trying to be isn't there. And in that moment, you're not there either. So then no one's there. So the best thing that you can do is be you, and not only be you, but be grateful to be who you are, because it's all you can be. And you are an expert. Like, people will compare themselves. I'm not on so-and-so's level yet. I don't have as much as so-and-so yet. No, but what you do have is X amount of years experience being you, and you are the best you there is. So there is no competition when you really think about it. Nobody can be Gregory Rutledge better than Gregory Rutledge. There can be people that can impersonate me. They can make fun of me. They can take take everything, take from waiter to greater, like take all of my IP, and it still isn't me. You can do it, right? You can do a version of it, but you don't have my story. And if I may add, someone told me a couple weeks ago, I think you should take God out of your messaging. Like, don't mix God and business. And I didn't have the courage to tell them in that moment, that's not going to happen. Because if I was to take God out of my story doesn't make sense. On paper, looking at it all as a whole, none of it makes sense until you put God in it. So what I would say is be grateful for who you are, show up as who you are unapologetically. Don't code switch, but like John said, read the room. Is a big word gonna make you sound like you're trying to be better than other people? And then maybe use that as information. Maybe this isn't the crowd for me anymore. Maybe it was at one point. But if they're not willing to come up to that level, like the constant negative Nancy that is going to drain you of all your energy every time you have something positive, they have a problem for every solution you give them, maybe it's time to cut them out, because you're rarely going to get someone up on a chair with you. They've got gravity on their side. They're going to pull you down before you ever get them to think about getting on that chair with you.
Ain't nobody beat the Greg but the Greg, man.
The Greg.
Can't nobody beat Greg but the Greg. Real life.
Hey, I coined that, by the way.
You did.
Greg.
I guess I'll go next. I don't know, man. My heart is big in this place for anybody that's, struggling with identity, because that's really what it boils down to. It's identity. It's an identity crisis, because you have to decide who you are going to be. It's not a thing where you just get to be yourself. You have to decide. And that decision is going to determine the path that you go down. The thing I would say around gratitude is it's based in Philippians 4:6, and then I would act like I got this all memorized, but I don't. I just had to think through what it was and look it up. But Philippians 4:6 says, "Do not be anxious about anything." And I know y'all have heard that before, right? But But really sit with that. What does that mean? Do not be anxious about anything. To be anxious means you're thinking about a future outcome and you're thinking about what you need to do to avoid that outcome. It's an undesirable thing that you're thinking about, right? If you got an interview coming up and you're anxious about it, that means you're worried that they're not going to hire you. You're worried about how you're going to sound, and you're thinking about how to overcome that. The Bible says, do not be anxious about anything, but with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And so what I get out of that is I have to find something to be grateful for in that moment of anxiety. I have to find something to attach myself to and anchor myself in that. And then present it to God. Hey, I don't know what's going to happen with this interview, but Lord, just please be with me. But I'm so thankful that I have the opportunity to even get an interview. There are some people who don't get that opportunity. I'm so thankful for XYZ, right? That's how you have to reposition the way you think so that you can go into that situation a little bit stronger. So I'll close by saying, man, if you're anxious about anything, whether it's a relationship, a job, your finances, your health, I'm not here to say that there's some type of hocus pocus where it's just going to go away or just all work out. But I will say that being anxious about it is not the way to go. You need to find yourself being thankful for whatever it is you have going on in your life so that you can present it to God from a thankful place, right? Because gratitude guards your heart in seasons of uncertainty. And so that's the main thing, right? Lean into gratitude so that it can guard your heart in that moment where you don't know what's going to happen. That's all I got to say.
That's great. That's good. I would say to those that are listening that really don't see a way out, start with gratitude on the basis of grace. Give yourself some grace. You don't know what you don't know. And it's easy for us to a certain extent to say, hey, just be grateful. Just be thankful. It's simple for us because we've understood it, and fundamentally it's always been a part of us in our own journeys and adventures in life. But for some that are out there potentially listening that are in a very, very, very dark place, understand that this too shall pass, and that everything that is happening is not to you, is for you. Allow yourself the moment to say, I'm still here. Give yourself some grace, and then start to become aware. A practical thing that I do is I use identify, acknowledge, choose, and then decide. And I do it specifically in that order. I identify where I am, because if you're not self-aware or aware of where you are currently and what your state of being is, then nothing else matters. You have to be able to identify it. The next step is acknowledging, and you have to acknowledge it, because if you do not, then that thing takes dominion over you and everything in your life. You know, it's very simple. And Greg, you've spoken about it in the 12-step process and all the stuff like that. You have to acknowledge what that state is. You can't sit with it, right? The next step would be choosing. And for me, it's important because unfortunately, as humans, we tend to need proof that the thing works. So you choose to go on a diet, you start the diet, and then you see that, you know, you're starting to lose weight or your clothes are fitting a little better. So now, because of that, you're saying, you know what, I think I want this to be my lifestyle. And then you make that decision, which is the last part of this. This is just one thing that I do that I'm sure that if you guys try it, you'll see a difference. an immediate difference. So that's what I got.
All right.
Yeah.
Powerful pieces of information, man. We thank you for joining us again for another week here at the GFB Clubhouse, where we find a way to intertwine gratitude into all topics and all subjects, because at the end of the day, practicing it is one extreme form of not only transforming your life, but it can accelerate you getting where you want to be in life as well. When you start looking at all the good, all the things that are going on for you, chances are those things will increase. Subsequently, if you continue to focus on the bad, the negative, those things will increase also. The word says that as a man in his heart, so is he. And that plays a portion. So be careful what you think and be careful also what you say. So, if anything else, definitely remember to keep gratitude at the forefront of your mind. When you wake up and when you go to sleep, try, just as some in our comments testified to, try to find 3 things to be grateful for in the morning, acknowledge them, confess them, and then also do the same thing before you go to bed. And just try this little practice and watch how it can have monumental and compounding changes. This is the GFB Clubhouse. We're here every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. We thank you for joining us during the conversation, and we'll be right back here each and every Tuesday night. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Brad,
Until we
real quick,
go ahead.
before you
Sir.
end, this just hit me, and
What's
I have
up?
to share this. I was sitting outside the other day, and I was watching this bird, just one bird, and there was a fountain, and the fountain's like shooting out water, and this bird is just digging in holes, and it's finding little worms. And I sat there and I thought of the verse in Matthew where it talks about seek first the kingdom and all these things will be added unto you.
Mhm.
But if you go back further, it says, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet our heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? And I'm sitting here thinking about all the things I'm worried about. And I'm watching this bird, and just watching the bird gave me such a sense of gratitude. So I want to give them this before we leave. Just go watch nature for like 20 minutes. And that'll change everything, because the flowers don't worry about where they're going to get water. The birds don't worry about anything. And then the fountain starts shooting on this bird. And what did the bird do? Shook it off and it flew away. If you don't like where you are in life, you're not a tree. You can move. And how much better when you move in gratitude. So I'll let you conclude with that, but I felt like people needed to hear that.
I think it was a last minute grab for the robes. That's what I think it was. It was a last minute grab for the robes.
Shake it off and move.
He got it though.
I get the robes for
He got the
Shake
robe
it
on
off
that
and
one.
move with gratitude.
What he wanted to do.
Shake it off and fly away.
So we gonna give it to you, Greg. You got it. We'll shake it off.
That's Matthew chapter 6. If anybody's looking for it, that's one of my favorite chapters. Whole Bible.
And I too had to look that up because I forgot.
But blessings, y'all. Thank you for joining us. This is the GFB Clubhouse, and we are out of here.
Peace.